of GRA than we've had to date. Thank you.
Will Price.
Thank you for your chairmanship today. And it was a pleasure also to listen to the opening speech by my honourable friend, the member for Carshalls and Wallington, who I think set the tone extremely well. Because if there's one thing I think about this debate, it has become very toxic. Dare I say, it is rather too binary. There is, in effect, a clash of rights here between sex and gender, and I'm afraid we, as a political class, have failed. We have failed to show leadership in this area, and it's high time that we did, and we should not run shy of debating these issues. But I rather think that viewing this through the sentiments in the petition and through the existence of GRA, the current Gender Recognition Act, we're rather limiting ourselves as to what the remedies are to make sure that we properly empower people of all genders and however they wish to, however anyone wishes to live and express themselves, by looking at it through an act which, as I said in my intervention to him, predates same-sex marriage. And I think we really need to have a fresh look at how we approach all issues of sex and gender in our legislation. Because the world has changed, and you know, the Honourable Lady was absolutely right. In 2004, this was groundbreaking, but now it does look very, very out of date. And I'll just make one comment about the toxicity of this debate. I think, you know, we can all condemn the abuse and vitriol that people are exposed to when they engage in this debate. But the truth of the matter is we have to recognise that the reason this happens is because for many people this is very, very personal. It's very personal for the transgender person who thinks that their existence is being erased or being said that it doesn't exist. It's equally personal for women who feel that their sex-based rights that they and their forebears have fought for generations are being erased. But you know, it should not be beyond the wit of us all as policymakers to really overcome that, because the truth is they're both right. They're both right. And we've got to get beyond that and keep up with meaningful solutions. So as I say, I think we need a fresh look at the whole issue of how we tackle sex and gender in our legislation. And, you know, I just come to the points mentioned by the Honourable Lady and my honourable friend in his opening statement about the fact that so few trans people actually apply for a GRC. And I would say that perhaps begs the question, do we need a GRC? Do we need a GRA that enables people to have a certificate that confirms their gender? Because in this country, we don't need papers to tell us who we are and how we live. And that's really the point. What useful purpose does a GRC serve? And I look forward to hearing the Minister's views on that, because that's the truth is, we should go, I know we're looking at it from what's been described as a minor reform, but let's just challenge the purpose of what this documentation is designed to deliver, because does it really deliver any enhanced rights over and above what anyone has in the law as it is? In fact, for a lot of people, by moving towards self-ID, it puts trans people into a collision course with women's rights. And I don't think it's a collision course that anyone really wants to see. So I'd like to see a much more challenging way of doing that. And for me, I think the way forward isn't about establishing, you know, gender recognition certificates. It's about really going into our laws and determining where sex matters and where gender presentation, gender identity can prevail. And really, there are just a number of areas where sex really needs to trump gender. One of them is health. You know, it's actually fundamental and helpful for people's declared gender to trump their sex on their medical records. And we're seeing people not being called for routine screenings based on sex, for example. In the criminal justice system, I mean, the honourable gentleman said that transgender prisoners are risk assessed. Well, they are if they haven't got a GRC. But if a trans woman with a GRC is automatically put in the women's estate, it's a transgender who self-declares who is risk assessed. So we have transgender prisoners with and without a GRC in the women's estate. But the truth of the matter is, it should be for service providers to risk assess their premises. That would be a safer situation all around. And again, if we're relying on a piece of paper that actually is no longer necessary, because again, I come back to the fact that act was passed to enable same-sex marriages, which are now uniformly enabled in law. So, again, I say, do we need a GRC? I think the other area where sex really matters is sports, and it appalls me, and I'm sure it appalls most people, that sports governing bodies are turning a blind eye to women's sport being destroyed by transgender athletes, where there's an innate physical advantage. This is all practical common sense, and I think because we, as a political class, have neglected gripping with these issues for so long, we have allowed this toxic debate to happen. We've allowed the extremes to happen, and I think it's incumbent on all of us to, as my honourable friend said in his opening remarks, to actually bring back some common sense. We, as legislators, need to show cool heads and actually come to a law which suits everyone, which empowers transgender people to be who they want to be and to live their lives free of prejudice and discrimination, but which also enables everyone to be comfortable with that and enables the protection of women's spaces. Thank you, Mr. George.